Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Around the Controller and Around the Monitor Gaming Podcast. I am one of your hosts today, Mizuki, and I am joined by the magnanimous monarch, King Kaiser.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our only legal counsel, Dapper Dastard.
The court is in session.
And the Kingfisher bird in reverse, Fisher King.
I had to do it twice.
Alright, since this is our first episode, here is how this podcast is going to work, both for the panel and the audience. During the first half of the episode, we're going to go over what we've recently been playing, give some quick takes, how we feel about games we're playing right now. That's about it. Second half, we're going to go through the topic of the show. This week's topic is our 5-ish minutes about our favorite game, why they're our favorite game, why we love them, that sort of thing. Expect spoilers. I don't think any of us have recent games as our favorites when we were talking earlier, so you should be pretty safe on that one.
My favorite game is Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
It's not even out yet.
I'm from the future.
I'm from
My favorite game is The Last of Us 2.
Man, you're from the future and you chose 2020? Holy fuck. What's gonna happen with the world?
By the way, this is the last year they make games.
Oh no.
I'm done. No, that's it. That's the end. Alright, so I guess I'll lead us off on this one. So what have I been playing recently? The bulk of my recent game time, probably 60-something hours out of the last few weeks, has been a Final Fantasy VII Remake, Part 1. Now, I'm loving this game. Not my favorite game of all time by any means, but loving the game. Played it through twice so far, once on normal, once on hard. Fantastic both playthroughs. Hard is actually like challenging at times, easy at the points you want it to be easy. Pretty easy platinum trophy, 2 playthroughs, 1 normal, 1 hard, and then some bonus content that I'm not quite done with, so I'm not quite finished with the game. Other one I've been playing recently is After Party, which if you are watching on Twitch...
Wait, you too?
That's weird. Same here.
If you're watching on Twitch, we literally just recorded our video game book club about After Party, so if you want more in-depth takes on the game, check out... Does that go to YouTube, Zach? Do we post that one?
We've talked about. I'm gonna put it on our Patreon. I'm gonna start putting all the book clubs, book club VODs on the Patreon.
If you want more details on our book club games, either tune in live or go to our Patreon and we'll give detailed takes, but overall it was good. It could have been great, but it wasn't. So if you want any more detail than that, go to Patreon or watch it live. Other games I've been playing, Animal Crossing is my daily drug, and will continue to be.
And I'm hooked, baby.
At least twice a day. Gotta check those turnip prices, man. Twice a fucking day. Hope that they're high. They never are. Always go to someone else's island.
That stock market.
Yeah, dude, stock market's so great. Except not.
Yeah.
Playing.
The full pun, the Sal Jones stock market is such a good. Like when I read that, I was like, "Wow, this is master wordplay."
Someone actually took the time.
They did take the time to figure that one out. I'm really curious if that's just an English wordplay or if it's also the same in Japanese. Because it wouldn't make this that same thing wouldn't make sense in Japanese.
Yeah, my guess is it's a translation thing, but
I don't know. What else have I been playing recently? I started Chrono Trigger. I'm literally nowhere near deep enough to even talk about that.
sorry.
Yeah, well, yeah. And the last game I've been playing is Doom Eternal. I'm very close to the end. That game is very hard on Nightmare, but also very fun and is a perfect foil to Animal Crossing. Because when you finish playing Doom Eternal for an hour and you want to die, possibly even choose to go to hell over actually living in this world anymore, you're like, I could use some Isabel in my life.
And Isabel could use some Doom Eternal.
She could use some venting, yeah. At times, she has to deal with Tom Nook 24 hours a day, 7 days a
Man, that
week.
fucking
Like,
capitalist bastard.
dude, he's awful.
He's also still a Tanuki.
I mean, the ball's on this
Yeah?
guy, you know.
Nice.
Hey,
No one gets the joke outside of us. All right.
yeah.
Yeah, King
guess-
Kaiser. Why don't you go
Sure.
next? What you been playing?
Well, I've also been playing After Party and Final Fantasy VII Remake. I won't hash over those again because I think we have the same thoughts on them. The only other thing I think nobody's going to talk about this game. I've been playing Cards of Darkness on my phone. Actually, it's just Card of Darkness singular. This is an Apple Arcade game. It is very difficult until you get the hook, and then once you get the hook, it's still very difficult. It is
It's somehow more difficult.
yeah. Well, like literally, I did the tutorial and I was like, okay, this game makes sense. And I went to the first level and I failed like 5 times straight, and I was like, this game fucking is kicking my teeth in on level 1. And then I got it, and then I went to level 2 and I was like, listen, you don't know what the fuck you're doing yet, son. And I was like, wow, I guess I don't. It can feel it's hard to describe. It's a card game, but it's not a card game. That's not, if you say card game, it misleads you.
It literally has card in the title. How is it not a card game?
I mean, you're picking up cards, but it's not like you don't build a deck. You don't. It's like Solitaire if Solitaire hated your guts. I guess would be the best way to describe it. I like it a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. I keep coming back to it when I just have like a few spare minutes. But it also, some of the levels they do take more than a few minutes, so it's not necessarily that pick up put down game. But usually once I pick it up, I'm playing for at least 15 minutes because I want to try and beat a level I'm on, and then I either get frustrated or I'm just like, okay. But I definitely recommend checking it out. Again, Apple Arcade is, I would say Xbox Game Pass is probably the best deal in gaming, but I'd say Apple Arcade is maybe the second or third. It's free for the first month, so
The best deal
What do
in
you guys
mobile gaming.
easily that.
Really, I thought that was the Fire Emblem Heroes Game Pass. I thought that was the best deal in mobile gaming.
I say to you, it's
Hey.
called the Fat Pass.
It is called the Fat Pass. God
Because
damn.
it's so feh.
Yeah. That's it.
That's truth in
really
advertising, though, and I appreciate that.
All right, Deffer, what you been playing?
I've been switching off between 2 games. I picked up XCOM Chimera Squad a little bit ago, and that's actually been a lot of fun. Slight variation from the typical XCOM formula, but still very fun in its own way. Also a little easier than other XCOM games, I've noticed. Haven't been getting screwed on 80% chances nearly as often as I feel like I did in the first 2 games. But
Did
again, short play.
Did they change that like percentage paradigm, or is it basically the same? You just feel like it's less punishing.
I mean, everything looks the same, but I just swear like they somehow made it nicer to me. maybe it's just luck, but
I did read that the numbers they show are actually lower than the actual numbers.
really.
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
As opposed to old XCOM where they were just inaccurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And my gun would be 1 inch from a guy's face, and I'd have a 60% chance of hitting him.
Yeah.
yeah, there is that. But yeah, I did hear the devs actually like it'll show you like 85 and it's actually 90 or something like that.
It's pretty funny.
They lowball it to make you feel better about yourself.
That's pretty funny. But yeah, that's been good. Again, I love those kind of games, so that's been enjoyable. And they did a really cool thing where they released it on sale for only $10. So like it was a super easy pickup for something that's going to be about 20 hours worth of gaming. And then other than that, I finally picked up Astral Chain for the Switch. I've been playing a lot of that. I kind of have some mixed feelings about it because like Platinum Games' whole thing is like these hack and slashers where dodging at the right time gives you like slow down time. And yet, despite this being the most recent one, it feels distinctly worse than Nier and Bayonetta 2. Actually, Bayonetta 2 is Platinum Games' best playing game, and it's like 5 years old. So I'm enjoying Astral Chain. I'm just frustrated the combat felt smoother in a game that was 5 years older on a worse system. Also, silent protagonists are jank.
I'm glad Chrono Trigger doesn't have one of those.
Question for you real quick, Dapper, before we move on.
Yo.
is it just like the dodging and normal action that feels slow? Because I've played through all of Astral Chain. Is it the dodging and stuff that feels slow, or is it that you have to like interact with your spirit buddy?
Two things that bug me is dodging just feels a little choppy. The fact that you're like dodge animation like there's 3 different dodges as just set frame feels like I don't know, it just doesn't feel smooth. And there's also so much going on at the same time, and everything is a similar color palette of shiny gray metallic, where it is hard as fuck to know what's going on when you're facing multiple enemies. Like I want to feel cool and dodge shit, but I literally can't tell what the fuck is going on. There is a little too much clutter for the gameplay to feel smooth.
Playing on TV or handheld mode?
No, TV.
Okay.
I like it. Again, I just feel like a game by the same company 5 years earlier did it better, which is just weird.
I'm on the same page as you on that. I was just curious what your reasoning was.
But yeah, that's about it. Most of those 2 games. I got Indivisible coming up next when I finish XCOM.
Nice. That's on my list too.
Right.
Fisher King. What you been playing, my dude?
Playing a lot of things. Recently just finished Persona 5 Royal, which is really good. It's just kind of fixes a lot of the annoyances about Persona 5.
Dang, you've been fucking cranking on that game if you're finishing Royal already.
Yeah. Game's good. What do you want from it?
How long did it take you to beat it?
I think it took us like 30 hours to beat it. That might be wrong though.
Whoa, 30?
Only 30?
That must be incorrect.
It's like a 100-hour game.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly I have no idea.
He's just that good, guys.
It took me
He's
60.
just that good.
No, it had to be more than 30. They did a lot of stuff to speed it up though too, which is nice. Combat just goes even faster than it already did, which was great because combat in that game is so quick. I mean, I don't know. I beat the first game in 67 hours, so 30 is probably wrong. However much it was, it flew by. I mean, I blitzed through that game. I also probably was faster because I wasn't reading all of the text because I already played the fucking game, so I skipped a lot of stuff.
That's fair.
All the addition stuff is really cool. The new confidants are interesting. Game is overall good. It's a good improvement on Persona 5. It's not like as good as P4 Golden is to P4, but I think that's also just because like P5 is a better vanilla game than P4. But P4 Golden is better than P5 Royal. That's weird how that works.
They improved much more significantly on P4 with Golden than they did with Royal.
Exactly. I mean, also one of those games is playable portably. One of them is not.
Yeah. Look,
sadly, Royal's not on the Switch, but
God, it should have been. And then
I still think it will be at some point.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Alice is weird.
Don't get your hopes up, dude.
Yeah. I think there had to be
Nintendo, both very strange companies.
I think there's a secret exclusivity deal at this point, but
that could be the case. And then we finished that. Now we're on to Final Fantasy VII Remake. We just started that the other day. It's good. I hate to admit it, but it's good.
Why would you hate to admit that, Fisher?
Nomura is a piece of garbage. This is an aside, but I explained the entire storyline of Kingdom Hearts to Victoria the other day, and she was just like, "Why does he continue to do this?" And having to justify the naming convention of 358 over 2 days. God,
I played it and I still don't get it. Don't go into it, but don't. Just
Okay.
don't. Just don't.
No, you're right. You're right. I've been playing a shitload of One Step from Eden. I have like 50 hours logged on that game. It's so good. It's such an amazing roguelike. If you like the Mega Man Battle Network series, check it out. It's awesome. It's just that combat ripped and it done in a really cool way. And then just playing everything that Riot Games makes, unfortunately.
So that's
League of Legends, which I play with a bunch of my friends. I've always played it.
Cancer, aka Valorant.
Valorant, the most toxic game I've ever played in my entire life. I haven't actually played the ranked yet. It came out today. And then Legends of Runeterra, which is, in my opinion, the best card game currently out. It is better than the current iteration of Magic the Gathering.
Wow.
Old.
Wait, sorry, Fisher. Did you just say it was better than Magic the Gathering?
Well, Magic's bad a lot of the time. It's also the problem.
Sorry, could you say that again one more time?
The problem with Magic the Gathering is that every single time they make a fucking expansion, it's either great or dog shit. There's no middle ground.
Wait. So let me just get this straight. You're telling me that Tetsuya Nomura made a good game. Magic the Gathering is bad. Now you're going to tell me that Breath of the Wild is a 10 out of 10. Please let it be true.
Oh, don't provoke him.
No, because
Don't
Breath of the
provoke
Wild
this.
is bad all of the time, whereas Magic's only bad like 30% of the time.
Okay.
And yeah, that's it. I've been playing a lot of card games apparently, because between fucking Runeterra and I mean,
One step
What's
from
it
you.
means kind of a card game.
It is. It's a deck builder.
It's a deck builder, yeah.
It's a deck builder, yeah.
All right.
All right. Now, let's get to our topic of the show. Our topic of the show is 5-ish, and honestly, we did the what you playing a lot faster than I expected, so if we run a little long on this, I'm not going to be mad. 5-ish minutes.
You want to hear about my expedition deck in Legends of Runeterra?
I really
No.
think so.
100% do not want to hear about that. Card games are trash. Don't at me. Now, our topic of the show, 5-ish minutes about your favorite game, the game you love the most, not necessarily a 10 out of 10 game by like critic standards, but the game that you love the absolute most. I'd actually like to start with someone that's not me on this one. Do we have a volunteer?
No
I mean,
trivia question?
I'll take it away. No trivia question.
The questions.
All right, King Kaiser, tell us
I'll take-
about time travel.
Yeah. So Chrono Trigger is
Oh,
the
Time
game.
Splitter. Time Splitter is your favorite game of all time.
Fuck yeah, dude. Don't get me
Listen,
started.
Chrono Trigger is an absolutely magical game. If you have not experienced it yet, you owe it to yourself to do so. Sorry, having said that, because now I'm going to spoil why this game is so fantastic and the story along with it. It's a pretty standard fare RPG, except it's not standard at all. It's an action RPG, Super Nintendo, made by Square before they were SquareSoft, and it has a very unique battle system in that you always have 3 party members. The cast is excellent. The sprite artwork is beautiful. The music is fantastic. Literally, some of the most iconic. Like, oh my god, "Wind Scene" is literally one of my favorite video game songs of all time. But the battle system is like active time battle. You have meters that slowly fill up. Once they fill up, you can take an action. But they keep going, so it is important to pick a move and go quickly. However, if 2 of your teammates or more, 3 of your teammates have their meters full, they can do a tag team attack, which is often much more powerful, especially depending on which 3 characters you have. They also will affect certain areas of the battlefield. So depending on where your enemies are, if they're in the line of an attack, they can be hit or not be hit if you use a certain like area of effect attack. It's the battle system is so far ahead of its time. It's fantastic. Actually, the team that made this game went on then their next game was to make Final Fantasy VII, which is many people consider the best game of all time. So, but they're wrong because it's Chrono Trigger. But there's in the world of games we live today. Fisher was literally just talking about Persona 5. The reason I have not played this game is a extremely time-consuming JRPG. Chrono Trigger. Fisher, you finished Chrono Trigger, right?
Yeah.
How long do you
Probably
think that
4 or
game
5
was?
times.
How long do you think that game is?
It's shorter for JRPG. I'm gonna say 12 hours.
Yeah, that's basically it. It's like 12 to 14 hours. It's so well paced. You're never grinding. You're never worrying about being underleveled.
Yeah. I
Never worry-
reference that all the time because sorry to interrupt you, but
No, it's
the XP method used in Chrono Trigger is used in all of the Persona games as well, which is in theory that if you battle every single enemy that you encounter just running straight through the game, you will be always leveled exactly where you need to be.
it's so
You never have
perfect.
to go back and grind or anything like that. Look at UFF12.
I was gonna say this is a JRPG without grinding. Like, let me emphasize that maybe more than anything else about what you're saying.
And in regard like time travel is a huge mechanic in the game. You start off obviously in modern day. You very quickly get sent to the like Middle Ages, Dark Ages, I think is what it's called in the game. Then you go from like 65,000 BC. You go into like the post-apocalyptic future. You go. There's one point where you can travel to like after time ends. And that's kind of trippy, but the whole goal is to stop this like planet-killing monster called
Lavos.
who arrives on the planet super long ago, and basically he's like slowly gaining power. And at one point in the future, he's going to destroy all life. And the most amazing thing about this game, we mentioned earlier that silent protagonists usually suck. I think that depends on how they're used. I think largely I am very tired of them, especially like examples like Byleth in Fire Emblem Three Houses sucks ass because he has a personality, but he doesn't because he's supposed to be
Literally the worst.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than a what's supposed to be a audience or player surrogate that isn't that because they have a personality. Link is a great example of this. He
Yes.
fucking has such a personality, and they act like he doesn't.
And Chrono does not for the most part. They'll have a few reaction phases. Again, it's 16-bit, so like there's not so much they can do with him.
Yeah.
But there is a point with Chrono in the game where you go to fight Lavos and your team is not actually ready, and Lavos fucking kills Chrono. And like all of the party members are like devastated, and they're like, "Oh fuck!" Actually, the bad guy who was the bad guy, Magus, joins your party and is like, well, "Listen, I'm still kind of evil, but I want to kill Lavos, so you guys get the best shot. I'm with you." And you can from that point then go and kill Lavos without bringing Chrono back to life, which is so fucking crazy. I think the plot to get Chrono back is a little dumb, but that's a whole another side point.
It's fine.
Don't worry about
It's fine. Yeah.
Qu-
That
if
the
you
fact
don't, if you don't mind, can I interrupt real fast?
Yeah.
Does the game have multiple endings where if you
it has
revive...
9 endings.
Whoa, okay. All
It
right.
is- It was, I believe, released in 1995, and it has 9 endings. Again, it's done certain things. I think literally Chrono dying and you being given the choice to do a side quest to get him back or not is something that I don't think has been done in a game since, or at least no major game I can think of. And I think it's fantastic. I mean, maybe that's because nobody wants to touch the ground that Chrono Trigger has walked on.
What do you mean, Chrono Cross? That great game, Chrono Cross.
Now listen, it's
No,
not
fuck
that
you.
bad.
You listen. Chrono Cross sucks.
It's not that bad.
Battle Theme slaps though.
But yeah, Chrono Trigger is an absolute masterpiece and so fucking good. I really recommend it to everybody.
In conclusion, it's good.
All right, I have a couple
It's
of
the best
questions.
game ever made.
Couple questions.
Sure.
One, how many times have you replayed Chrono Trigger?
2.5. It's probably of all my like favorite games, it's the least I've played.
That's
times.
surprising.
Yeah. Like I've
Um,
beaten Super Metroid probably like 14, but
and I know this one's older. It came out originally on Super Nintendo, right?
correct.
When did you originally play it?
SNES.
When I was like 14 or 15.
Okay.
Basically that summer, I went to my folks' place down in Florida, and there was no kids my age to play with. So I spent the whole time on my computer emulating games that I did not get to play because I like just aged out of them. My first console I owned was a N64. So that is why I actually have any knowledge of Super Nintendo games is due to that summer, where I basically just played a Super Nintendo game every other day.
So okay, that's what I was wondering. Like, was this whole thing because I think you were born 91, right? We talked about this like
Correct.
literally yesterday.
Mhm.
So it's not just like early 90s nostalgia. It's you literally played it as a teenager and
Exactly.
Okay,
Like, yeah, I guess at that
not
point,
when it came out.
no, at that point I do remember playing my Xbox 360 while I was there as well. But for some reason, I became obsessed with emulating Super Nintendo games that summer, and I just played
It's because Super Nintendo
so
slaps.
many masterpieces.
Super
Super
Nintendo slaps.
Nintendo is one of the best consoles ever made by Nintendo.
I will disagree on the console. I'll say it has the best library of any of them. Okay.
What do you need a console to do? Play games. Boom.
Better than the GameCube, that's for sure.
GameCube had amazing games, unlike the Wii. We're getting sidetracked.
Guys, we did this episode already.
Oh man. All right. Let's go to Fisher King.
Yeah. Okay. So,
What is your
my-
favorite game of all time?
My favorite game of all time is the second game by Supergiant Games. It is Transistor. Uh, Supergiant Games made a name for themselves by making Bastion, a super pretty indie game title, just sort of like a semi-generic roll-around smash stuff, hack and slash game. Top-down isometric-ish view. But it was right in the middle of the era of like kind of shovelware, console shovelware. But right when indie games started to sort of have notoriety, namely things like Limbo and Fez and stuff like that. And here comes this studio with a little bit of money from mostly Microsoft, and they made Bastion, which is just a super pretty, awesome game. Sold hellaciously well, but one thing that the game had, like in spades, was really, really nice music. It was because it's all talking about this guy named Darren Korb, who is an LA-based musician. So Supergiant Games, for their second game, Transistor, they decided to sort of like double down on the music thing. And so they had Darren Korb do the entire soundtrack again, but this time they made the music and the sound focal to the game. So in Transistor, you play as a girl named Red. Red is a famous musician from the city called Cloudbank. That's where everything takes place, the city of Cloudbank. And she, right before the onset of the game, lost her voice. There is a evil society of people called the Camarada. They are made up of 5 like well-to-do people of the city. Excuse me, 4. And their goal is progress by any means. So Cloudbank is a city of like only like geniuses live there, only like super talented artists and like scientists and politicians and the like. And the Camarada seek to like push the city even further into more progress. So they invent a weapon, namely Royce Brackett, who's one of the members of the Camarada, does this, called the Transistor, which has the ability to compile anything into data. Right at the onset, they try to use the Transistor to kill Red. Her bodyguard, who we later find out is actually her lover, basically pushes her out of the way and gets eaten by the Transistor. And that's where the game begins. Red picks up the Transistor that now has the unnamed man inside of it, and you are just sent to go defeat the Camarada. And so the entire game, there's no dialogue in Transistor. It's all just the man inside the Transistor speaking to Red. But Red is our player character, and Red shows like all of the like emotion. She's the one that actually like does things with agency, and it's a really interesting way of like narratively telling like a tale of 2 characters, one who we can only hear and the other one we can only see. And like we learn a lot about both of them. The Transistor constantly like tells stories and like reminisces, and like the game is full of all of these awesome little side things that you can do that don't actually matter. They only just seek to like give you more about Cloudbank and Red and the Camarada and the man. Like you for example get to go to a station and pick out what food you want, and based upon which thing you get, either what he recommends or what Red always gets, you get more special dialogue regarding that. All this to say, I didn't even talk about the combat yet. So the combat is the same style of combat as Bastion. If you like it that way, you basically get 2. Because the Transistor compiles things into data, you find data scraps, and the Transistor can use those as weapons. Basically, you get to use 2 active ones, and you get to put other ones on them as like modifications, basically. So like each thing combos in different ways. So like the classic you get is Crash, which is just hit thing with sword, and if you combine Crash with like Jaunt, which is the dash ability, you will slash and then immediately dash afterwards. And
Okay,
you can
cool.
do it that way, where it's like everything is just active time, or you can do a planning mode where like you hit a button and then you go into planning phase, and you have like here's like a timeline of like the next 10 seconds, and you get to pick everything that happens in that timeline and then just execute it, and it all goes through.
Which do you prefer out of the 2 combat systems?
You should absolutely do the planning phase. It's what the game is built for.
Okay.
Yes.
There
Someone
are
who's played it, I also was like, well, no,
there
do
are
not
certain-
play it in real time.
There are certain abilities that you can use in real time. So like once you use your planning phase, you're on cooldown. But there are certain abilities you can use outside of planning phase, like Jaunt, for example. So you can just dash around and wait for your thing to come back and then do it. So it rewards good planning, or it rewards like knowing how abilities interact, and it rewards like just creativity with the stuff you do. Because like the amount of jank you can do is crazy. Also, fun fact: the character Echo in League of Legends, all of his abilities are based off of different combinations you can do in Transistor.
That's not at all surprising.
Because he is based off of the kid, and he's also based off of Red.
His weapon is
the Transistor.
Yeah, it literally is. Yeah,
It's Transistor.
it's a flat
small.
green looking sword.
Yeah, it's like smaller and more bat-like than sword, but it's just straight up. It's
reminds
definitely
me.
invoking Transistor 100%.
The game is fucking gorgeous, and the art style kicks ass.
Yeah, the art is really good.
It's a beautiful game.
It's a very pretty game.
The music is also fantastic. Darren Korb, he does all the music for Super Giant games. The fact that he made 3 different games with 4 now, with completely different musical styles that all seem like fully fleshed out things is astonishing.
So what are a couple of the things other than the combat system that make this game one that you love above everything else?
I really like the story about it. I just feel like it's such an interesting, like the personality of Red is so unique. She's a strong female character that like is like her physical appearance is definitely a part of it, but it's also like that has really nothing to do with what makes her special. It's the fact that she is a talented and like prolific individual, which is something that's actually pretty rare. Most female protagonists are either like there because they're sexy or there because they're good at the punching. Red is actually not either of those things. I mean, she's literally just a very good singer. She's an artist.
But she's also sexy.
She is sexy. Also, the art style of that game is fucking gorgeous. It's kind of an underrated thing, but the way characters speak in that game is so fucking unique, and it's because they all have like the Cloud Bank accent, like they all talk like they're from that city, and something they do, like they pepper in phrases that are specific to the city, which don't make any sense unless you actually like have played the game multiple times and know to expect it. Also, the final boss kicks absolute ass. Mild spoilers for a fucking like 10-year-old game, but the final boss also has a transistor.
Yes.
And so as soon as you go to fight him, he has planning phase and he has all the different combinations you have.
And I'm assuming that's nothing. I've played like the first hour of the game. That's about it. But I'm assuming there are no other enemies that have another transistor other than you.
No,
until that point. Okay.
Yeah. He literally says, "Why don't I take my turn first?" Or something.
He goes, how about I go first? Also, the way Royce Brackett, that voice actor is so good. I think his name is like Ramza Ali or something like that. He has like a little bit of a stutter, and he's very soft spoken and calm. And it comes across as like simultaneously very menacing, but also like kind of soothing.
That's an interesting combination.
That voice actor is great. It's a great fucking job.
What would you say that Cloud Bank accent actually is?
So everyone in Cloud Bank
like transatlantic, right?
Yeah, they all. Yeah, it's a little old fashionedy. Everyone talks kind of like they really articulate their words very well, and they all have very good elocution. Everyone kind of talks like a rich asshole.
It's like old timey movies.
Yeah, it's a little old timey. Everyone has a very like affected manner of speaking. It's kind of it's a bit strange. But to be fair, we only hear really 3 or 4 people talk throughout the entire game. We really only hear Royce, Sybil, the Transistor. That's good. That's really it.
It has great world building on top of amazing gameplay.
Yeah, the world feels very succinct. It's a really good job of Logan Cunningham, who does voices in all the Bashing games or all the Super Giant games. When he's the Transistor, he's constantly like saying, "Oh, take a right there. That'll take us this way," or we could go over here and there's something else.
So how do they build the world in that one? Is it mostly through Transistor, or is it through?
So it's mostly through dialogue, but there's a lot of excuse me. There's a lot of it's a rule used in Valve games where they always have you enter a scene with something just ending or having already be in progress. So you'll walk around and you'll see the process, which is the main villains. They are just things made by the camera. They're designed to consume and destroy data. You'll see them like actively doing things. Like, for example, at one point you walk in and they're cleaning up the remnants of like a dinner party. But another thing is that there are these terminals, the PCV terminals, I believe they're called, which are how CloudBank works. So citizens of CloudBank can go to these terminals and vote, and that determines what happens. So, for example, the very first one you encounter is, what should the weather be like tomorrow? Rainy with scattered clouds, or sunny? And you pick your vote. And no, it doesn't matter because the vote's not close enough for you to change it. But the transistor goes, sunny wins again. 100th day in a row. Which is like a great way of showing that, like, oh yeah, there's elections and like everything is voted on, but also like not really, because it's been sunny 100 days in a row.
Even though there are elections, your vote might not necessarily matter.
Yeah, and like later you encounter terminals where no one has voted, so your vote is the only one that matters.
Oh, so the votes are like actually by the terminal, not necessarily by.
Yeah. So you find one later, and it's like it's just like, I can forget what it's like, what movie should play, and Red's the only person that's voted.
Okay, that's interesting. And your choice matter for those sorts of things? Or...
No, it's just fun dialogue things. That's not true. Some of them, so for example, like which food you pick. So when you go to Red's apartment later, like you're treated to a little. It's a cutesy thing because it has like all the super giant like stuff on the walls and stuff like that. But you get to see Red like there's like a nicely drawn art thing of like Red eating either the pizza or it's like a sandwich. I think the other one from Junction Jan's.
You're making me want to actually like try this game again.
It's a fantastic game. And
It is very good.
Beautiful. Also, soundtrack. Oh my god, soundtrack's so good.
Yeah, I'll give Supergiant that.
Yeah,
Every single one of their games is a slapping
so
soundtrack.
good, yeah. Even Pyre.
Even Pyre. Yeah. The red sheep of or black sheep of Supergiant.
The red sheep.
The red sheep.
Yeah, I messed that one up. Move it along.
Sad transistor on the brain.
Don't we?
I had red on my brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have a statue somewhere around here, but I'm not finding that right now.
All right, Dapper Dastard. What is your favorite game of all time?
All right. So I was stuck between two different JRPGs that are pretty similarly ranked. So I decided to go with the one that's not talked about as much, because I thought it'd be a bit more fun to talk about something that's less popular. So what I want to talk about is the underappreciated middle child of the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise, Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Yes. Only you and I care about this. Yeah.
So again, a lot of people know the original Xenoblade Chronicles because it's a pretty big hit on the Wii, very good game, and Shulk, the main character, even made it to Smash Bros. Then
he's shirtless. Of course he made
He's
it.
really feeling it.
he's really feeling it.
He's really feeling it.
And then the third game of the series, titled Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and yes, that is confusing, that released on the Switch in 2017 and actually sold gangbusters in comparison to what Monolith Soft Games had been selling previously. But between those two, released on the pretty lackluster Wii U back in 2015.
Understatement of the century.
How dare you? Cadillac of games.
Was Xenoblade Chronicles X. And my personal take is that if this game had gotten released on a console that didn't suck, we would have been talking about this game so much more, because it is a fucking good JRPG.
So, real quick, before you keep going, I legitimately thought that Xenoblade Chronicles X was just a remaster of Xenoblade Chronicles.
Same.
Am I, how, on a scale of 0 to 100, how wrong am I?
99.
Well, yeah, is 100 is 100 the most wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, then 100. Yeah.
That blows my mind. I legitimately thought it was a remaster of the original.
The reason they did the weird naming scheme is stylistically, Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 are more story focused. Xenoblade Chronicles X is more exploration focused. So they didn't want people to think X was in the same series as Xenoblade Chronicles. But then when they made 2, they said they were going back to the more story focused. So they wanted people to think more about the original. So that's why the first game is 1, the second game is X, and the third game is 2, because there's stylistic differences between them.
Now, what if it's a Roman numeral and it's actually Xenoblade Chronicles 10?
I would love if a game company did that.
I mean, a sequel to it, they should call it Xenoblade Chronicles X2.
11.
Hey. Xenoblade Chronicles 10 too.
That was good. That was good.
All right. So again, so it was kind of funny. I was listening to Kaiser talk about Chrono Trigger and how, like, for a JRPG, it's not super grindy. It's only like 12 hours. This game, exact fucking opposite, and that's why I love it. No. I want to burn 100+ hours grinding on bullshit.
Some prime JRPG bullshit.
So like again, this game is very grindy. There's a lot of fetch quests, and it also has a silent protagonist that is completely unappealing.
But
at least he's fully.
You're really selling me on this.
You're 100% selling it. Yeah.
At least he's
also
fully
character creator in that game slaps.
Yeah, I mean, he is fully customizable and he's not actually important. So once again, he works better as silent protagonist because he doesn't have a personality. He truly is just insert yourself into the game, but it's still awkward when you're talking to people and you have no expressions. So again, it's a JRPG that will turn off people who don't like JRPGs for their more well-known qualities. But this game thrives in every way that I love, and that is phenomenal gameplay, a tremendous depth of strategy and party control, and holy shit, it is the most fun I've ever had exploring the world in any game.
Okay.
So yeah, gameplay is pretty similar to Xenoblade Chronicles. It is real-time third person. It's sort of auto combats, but you have a set of skills on your bottom bar with cooldowns that you can use to interspace between your attacks. So it's very simple on paper, but between the 6 classes you can pick, the fact that each class has ranged and melee weapons, the fact that you have melee skills, range skills, debuff skills, healing skills, that certain skills combo off of one another. Like certain skills will say, if used directly after a range skill, do bonus damage. Along with being able to mix and match your party and having like 5 different elemental types per weapon, there is like a tremendous amount of different ways to play. My first playthrough, my class had a beam saber and 2 floating Gatling guns like above my shoulders, and I was all about using gravity melee attacks. Second playthrough, I had a javelin and a sniper rifle, and I fucking did half of a boss HP by doing electric thunder sniping. It was really fun.
It's like Armored Core levels of deck customization.
Right. It's, again, there are so many different ways to play, and there's a ton of different party members, from ones who are important to the plot to completely unimportant random characters who you can still just throw into your party for variety. And like none of them play the same too. So there's just a lot of different ways you can play.
You've got my interest here. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did they announce that this game is coming to the Switch now?
No, this one.
It's abandoned forever.
I
no.
think I heard a rumor that they were gonna port it.
Oh, okay.
They want to either port this or do a sequel to it, but it's, again, Xenoblade Chronicles was more well known, so it was going to get the priority. It's a bit of a time will tell if this gets the same treatment as Xenoblade Chronicles did.
So let me ask you a question real quick. Is each playthrough of the game roughly like 100+ hours, or is that like you want to replay it, so you want to go back and put more hours into it?
Okay, I'm pretty sure I looked this up. If you're doing like a straight story run with as little as possible, I think it's about a 60-hour game.
Wow.
Okay.
Again, I put over 150 in both my playthroughs because I am an obsessive completionist when it comes to JRPGs.
That's fair.
And I like to find every little nuanced thing. Especially since this game is one of those ones where like you can walk out on the first level when your character is level 3 and there's a level 92 boss just wandering around. It's a herbivore, so it's non-aggressive, so you can just stand next to it and admire it. But like you can literally find level 90 plus bosses while you're level 3, and you beat the game around level like 50s. So there's a ton of endgame content. And again, the other thing, again, and that sort of goes into the other big reason, is the exploration of this game is phenomenal. Like a bit of the way into the game, you unlock what are called skells, which are basically just mechs you can pilot. So the exploration turns from running around on feet to suddenly having a robot that can transform into a car. But then even
awesome.
better, a little later into the game, after that, you get the flight module for your mech, and you can literally fly fucking everywhere on the map. There is nothing off limits besides the literal final level that you only go to for the final fight. The entire map is completely explorable once you get the flight module. You can go
hard at Breath of the Wild.
Every cave, every mountain, every island. And I don't think there's ever been a game where I just stopped doing anything quest related for like 6 hours as I just flew around. I'm like, I don't care what the story is. I don't care what quest I'm on. I'm just gonna fly the fuck around. Sure, I got blown up like 8 times because I kept finding level 90 bosses who were not happy I was entering their caves. But it was so much fun to wander around and get the shit kicked out of me. Just finding because some monsters only come out at night, some only come out in different weather conditions.
Listen, I've played Pokemon. It's okay.
Exactly. So there was just so much you could run around and enjoy in a beautifully designed world with sort of like 5 different biomes that you could explore to your heart's content. So just, again, really fun gameplay, really good strategic depth to it, and just some of the best exploration I've ever had in an open world game. Also, bitchin' soundtrack.
You've actually made me interested in this now, so if they do port it,
I was interested up until 140, 50 hours.
As long as you commit to not finishing it, it won't bother you.
I don't think I can do that. I think I have that
how many hours it took me to beat that game. I can't imagine it was that many.
Again, I did a lot more than beat the game.
Listen, clearly,
you do the extras. You do the extras.
You beat Persona 5 Royal in 30 hours. Clearly, you beat this game in 2.
I'm gonna figure that out now because it's kind of like.
I guarantee you, it fucking wasn't 30 hours.
No, I'm sure it wasn't, but I also don't know what it was.
Oh man! All right.
What's your game, Mizuki?
My game is a little game on the GameCube and also PS3
Super Monkey
called
Ball.
Tales of Symphonia, and we're gonna ignore the fact that it had a sequel while I talk about this.
Good man.
The sequel never happened. It didn't. There's no sequel. I've never seen a worse sequel in my lifetime. Now, Tales of Symphonia, on paper, not really different from most of your stereotypical JRPGs. You've got a hero, you've got a party, one of your party members is a chosen one, supposed to go and change the world, rejuvenate the world as the game calls it.
Video games.
You've played some video games. But there's a point in this game that actually completely deviates from a lot of those, up until this point, previous notions in other games. You reach a point in this game where, also, there's a lot of religious and anti-religious undertones on both sides of this game. Pretty much, pretty much your main character is an idiot with 2 swords, and his best friend is the chosen one, who is following a path set before her by essentially the Catholic Church. We're not going to dive into that any deeper than that.
The Church of Martel.
The Church of Martel. Essentially, there's a legend saying that they have to go and rejuvenate their world by accomplishing a bunch of trials. And what this game does is the first time you play through it, it seems like it's very linear, that you have to do a lot of things in order, accomplish quests in order, do every little bit of this journey exactly how it's laid out before you. And the first time you play through the game, that's true, unless you want to just like beat yourself up against stuff like Dapper was talking about of level 90 bosses when you're level 3. It's not going to work for you if you try and go outside their predetermined path the first playthrough. What's really cool about this game is every subsequent playthrough that you make of the game, and you basically get points for Noob Game Plus every time you finish the game. And as you finish the game more times, you get more points for New Game Plus, where you can break the game more and more and more and more and more, up to the point where you have 10 times experience going through the entirety of the game. So normally, I think my first playthrough of the game took 72 hours.
It's a long one.
It's a long one. With all the upgrades and everything that you get through subsequent playthroughs, you can finish it in under 20. And that's not speedrunning where you're like utilizing glitches. That's literally just having those bonuses and taking different routes through the game. And you can actually change the story in some cases to a point where it makes a little more sense at parts. But you can alter the order of the story that happens. You can alter what characters you have. You can alter so many different pieces of the game. And while they don't affect the overall ending, they all very heavily affect your journey through the whole game. There are points where your party at the beginning is you, a couple of your childhood friends, a teacher that you've had for your whole life, and a mercenary. I'm gonna 100% spoil a bunch of the game right now, but basically the mercenary turns out to be your dad. He's an angel, he's immortal, there's a bunch of shit going on. He ends up being a boss like 3 times. And
You're not my real dad.
I mean, he is his real dad, but he does say
No
that
more
line. But like there's a whole bunch of points within this game where also at different playthroughs, there are bosses you straight up can't beat through in your first playthrough that you can beat in subsequent playthroughs that alter dialogue, they alter flow of the story, and again, they don't alter the overall ending, but they really change your experience. There are points at which where choices you make straight up kill characters in your party. There's a man later named Zelos who's sort of a douchebag, but also the antithesis of a douchebag all at the same time. Who's basically a triple agent for you, your enemy, and your pseudo enemy sometimes. And basically, they sort of play this off through the multiple playthroughs where, depending on what you do, that triple agent guy picks a side. And so he picks a side based on all the decisions you make. Some decisions you make, he dies, and your dad, who is your enemy for a good half of the game, actually rejoins you, joins your party. You get to fight with him the whole rest of the time. At other points, he doesn't die. He betrays your enemy, brings you materials that you need in order to like craft something to finish the game, and you end up beating your dad. You don't kill him, but you beat him. He's immortal. And like the level at which they went to changing the multiple playthroughs is, having not finished Chrono Trigger, one of the highest levels of detail to multiple playthroughs that I've ever seen. Even to like 100% the game, if you really want to go through, there's a title system where each character gets different titles by accomplishing different things throughout the game. Some of them are really dumb and simple to accomplish. Some of them are fucking impossible to do the first playthrough, let alone on the 4th playthrough. Or you have to accomplish some really weird feat like, oh, you have to use the base weapon for half the game. Or the one that I'm working on most recently where you have to keep half of your party dead for half the game.
Jesus.
Where like but it adds, each time adds a different type of difficulty to replaying the game that gives this game more replayability than any other one I've seen, not only in the Tales franchise, but in any game, period. Where you can make so many different modifications to how you play the game that the game encourages you to actually try in order to get all these titles and get that true 100% completion rate. Like I've played through this game like 14 times over the course of 27 years.
You're an absolute man.
Who are some of the bosses that you can't beat on your first playthrough, but you can beat? Kratos is one of them, right?
Kratos is one. Yggdrasil, the first time you encounter him, is actually beatable.
That makes sense, actually.
So he's beatable only with 10 times experience, unless you really grind out the 2 times experience one. He's beatable. It doesn't, like I said, doesn't really change the overall story, but it does change the dialogue quite a bit and some of the interactions between characters. There are lots of points where you get more information from each character based on who you befriend the most.
Yeah, I do know that.
There are points at which every character dies, and you get different dialogue and different order and a lot of different outcomes based on who you befriend the most during each playthrough. You'll get different items that save you in different ways throughout the game. It's really the most replayable game I think I've ever touched.
I'm 90% sure I have it in this house, and I'm tempted to go play it, although I'd rather just emulate it because I'm pretty sure my GameCube memory card is dead.
Yeah, I've beaten it once on GameCube and I've beaten it once on Steam.
I've beaten it
with a long gap in between.
Yeah, it's the combat system admittedly doesn't hold up as well as some of the later Tales games. It's a little
they don't have 3D running.
It kind of is, but you need a thing for it. And then there's also, it's a little slower than a lot of the other Tales games.
Yeah, that's fair. I recall that when I played it.
Yeah, it's a little slower. But compared to most other GameCube games, I'd say it holds up pretty well.
Oh man, that was definitely maybe my favorite game of the GameCube was Tales Symphonia. I played it with my brother and like a couple of friends for the vast majority of the game.
It's so fantastic, and you can play as any character too, which I think is fantastic. Like some of them are more fun than other ones. Like it's not really super fun to play a spellcaster in that game, but
no,
like you can play as like the mage, not mage, like sword sage guys. You can play as Kratos and Zelos, where you have both sword and magic. You can play as Colette, who has chakrams. You can play as Lloyd with swords. You can play Persea with an axe. Regal with Greaves. He just kickboxes people basically, and all of them have different combos. And I think the combo system is actually excellent in this game and ages fantastically.
I'm just remember the guy with the Greaves, like you said, the part in the story where. Because his whole thing is like, oh, he's like was a ex-criminal or is a criminal, I guess, and has like his hands tied up, and he fights using his feet, like he kicks with, and you like his weapons are like different boots or like leg armor or whatever.
Greaves, yeah.
And then at one point, like your whole party's about to get wrecked, and he's like, wait, break my hand, like break my chains, and they do it, and he like fucking punches through a wall. He does something with his arms.
He fucking shoots an energy blast out of
his
head.
I was like, does he
fucking Hadoukens like a hole in a wall or something.
He Hadoukens
Satsui no Hado.
He Hadoukens prison bars. Like you're all in prison. He Hadoukens the bars and breaks them open. It's like, you guys can leave now, and everyone's just like what the fuck?
How long could you do that, Regal?
And he's basically
like you should have done that earlier.
Oh god, all the okay, not all the characters. All the characters except the main two are all really good in that game. Yeah, Colette and Lloyd are kind of lame, but every single other character is extremely complex and has both a dark and light side to them and very interesting interactions. Like even the titles you pick actually change dialogue for random NPCs throughout the game. Mm-hmm. Like the Zelos guy, you can get a title with him that he's a huge womanizer and ladies man. You can get a title with him, and if you use the title throughout the game, every woman you talk to will give him an item. That's every single one.
That's wild. I didn't know that was a thing.
And like Colette has a whole title for talking. She's the only one that can talk to dogs. So just setting your party leader actually changes it. If you set your party leader to Colette, she can talk.
An amazing sentence. She's the only one that can talk to dogs.
Yeah, she talks to every single dog and names them throughout the game.
Yeah, she names every dog.
And then Zelos, you have to set him to the party leader. He'll talk to every woman and hit on them, and they'll give you stuff. And it's really kind of creepy in hindsight, but it's fine. But like, there's a ton of characters that have very slight interactions like that with the world that for a fucking GameCube game from 17 years ago is just, it's so good.
Also, Lloyd is voiced by Robin from Teen Titans.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
And I loved the fuck out of that when I was a kid.
100% is.
So did I.
I'm like, oh shit, I love Teen Titans.
Yeah. The voices are generally pretty good in stand up. There's a couple that don't, but most of them stand the test of time. Well, does anyone else have any closing remarks? Otherwise, we can wrap this inaugural podcast up.
Yeah, I got nothing.
No, apparently I missed a lot of Tales of Symphonia that I didn't fucking understand.
There's so much. There's literally the whole middle section of the game where you do like the human ranches and stuff. You can do those completely out of order, and it completely changes the story. You can meet Sheena.
I would love to try.
You
that,
can
actually.
meet Sheena earlier. Basically, that part where you get on the boat and cross the ocean, you can skip that.
Otherheim
Would you like
redeems
to
take
ride
away a
the
point.
What'd you say, Zach?
I said Otherheim redeemed take away a point.
But yeah, basically, instead of
fair.
going to the ocean village, you can just hang a left. But you have to be higher level than normal.
Huh.
And the whole
Hang
thing.
10.
Yeah, it's great. But all right, if no one has anything else, we'll call it. This has been our first episode of Around the Controller. If you've enjoyed the show, either on Twitch or on YouTube, give Around the Monitor, at Round the Monitor, a follow on Twitter. You can join us live. I think we're going to do this bi-weekly from the sound of it. We're still figuring out exact times and stuff, so probably bi-weekly. You can join us on Twitch, go up on YouTube, toss us a sub there. You can chat with us on Discord. Would love to hear feedback, both in the YouTube comments, the Twitch chat, and in Discord. If you guys have suggestions for topics, feedback, want to hear it all.
Our Discord's a very fun and lively place.
Yeah.
We talk about anime, tabletop games.
It's legitimately lively,
Breath of
and
the Wild.
we will talk to you like 100%, at least at the time of recording.
I'm very happy with what our Discord has become.
Yeah, all four of us are very active on it. A lot of guests and fans are active on it, and you can literally talk about anything, either in the general discussion or one of the
someone has played it or watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And has a strong opinion about it.
And
But
if
we're
we
nice
have,
about it for the most part.
Usually.
Yeah, it depends.
Unless we're shitting on someone we know is comfortable getting dunked on.
Unless it's someone's opinion about the Wii.
Or someone's opinion about Breath of the Wild.
My opinion's correct. It's
or someone's opinion about the Virtual Boy.
Or someone's opinions about Dark Souls.
I was like, what's
fine. We don't give you that much shit for that, honestly.
No, he does.
No.
Other people might.
Slam Man would if he was around. But,
Oh, yeah. All right, well, that's been it for our inaugural episode of Around the Controller. It's been fun. See you later, everyone.
Hey.